Every morning, the alarm rings. You open your eyes, but instead of getting up, you tell yourself, just 5 more minutes. The comfort of your bed is too tempting. Minutes slip by. Then hours. By the time you finally rise, regret has already settled in. You promised yourself today would be different, but the cycle repeats, again and again. Why does this happen? Why do we sabotage ourselves, even when we know what's best for us? Why do we let stress consume us, paralyze us, and strip away our sense of purpose? You are not alone. Every person, at some point, finds themselves trapped in this endless battle, not against the world, but against their own mind. The mind is cunning. It whispers sweet lies of comfort, lulls us into procrastination, and fuels anxiety about the future. It makes us believe that meaning is something distant, something we must chase. But what if we've been looking in the wrong place all along? This video was inspired by a young daughter who reached out to us, seeking guidance on 3 struggles many of us know too well: laziness, stress before exams, and the feeling that life has lost its meaning. But this is not just her story. It is our story. It is the universal struggle of the human mind. Thousands of years ago, the Buddha uncovered a truth about suffering and the illusions that keep us trapped. His wisdom remains as relevant today as it was then. And if you've ever felt stuck, unmotivated, or overwhelmed, what we are about to share may help you see things differently. Laziness is not just about avoiding work. It is about how the mind tricks us into choosing temporary comfort over long-term fulfillment. Stress is not just about pressure. It is about our inability to stay grounded in the present. And meaning? It is not something we must find, but something we must create. What if I told you that there is a way to break free? A way to overcome these mental traps and take control of your life, not through force or willpower alone, but through understanding and mindfulness? Imagine waking up every morning with clarity, studying with deep focus, and living with a profound sense of purpose. Stay with us until the end of this video. Because what you are about to learn may not just help you pass an exam or overcome laziness, it may change the way you see yourself, your mind, and your life. Chapter 1: The Trap of Laziness and the Art of Overcoming It. Laziness is a silent thief, robbing us of time, opportunities, and personal growth. It's a universal struggle, one that manifests in countless ways, whether it's postponing work, seeking temporary comfort, or avoiding responsibility. We tell ourselves we'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow rarely comes. This cycle of procrastination is not just a habit, it's a deeply ingrained mental pattern. But what if laziness isn't the problem? What if the real issue is how our minds deceive us into believing comfort is more valuable than progress? Understanding this deception is the first step in breaking free. Let me tell you a story. There was a time when I constantly struggled with procrastination. Every night, I would set my alarm with full determination: tomorrow, I'll wake up early and start fresh. But when morning came, my resolve disappeared. The alarm rang, and instead of getting up, I hit snooze. Just 5 more minutes. But 5 minutes became 10. Then 15. Then an hour. By the time I finally got out of bed, half the morning was gone, and guilt settled in. Why did I waste so much time? I promised myself I would do better the next day. But the cycle repeated. Again. And again. It wasn't that I lacked ambition, I had goals. I wanted to be productive. But every time I had to choose between momentary comfort and long-term progress, I chose comfort. My mind tricked me into thinking that avoiding discomfort was the better option. And that's when I realized, the real problem wasn't laziness. It was the way my mind convinced me that comfort was more valuable than action. The Buddhist teachings shine a light on this struggle. He once said, "It is easy to do what is unwholesome and brings regret, but it is difficult to do what is good and brings true happiness." This wisdom speaks directly to the heart of the problem. Our minds are wired for ease, seeking pleasure over discipline. It's why we struggle to get up early, why we avoid difficult tasks, and why we find it so hard to break bad habits. Think about the moment your alarm goes off in the morning. Your body is awake, but your mind whispers, "Just 5 more minutes." You give in, and those 5 minutes become 30. Eventually, when you do wake up, regret settles in. Ironically, the same mind that convinced you to sleep longer is now criticizing you for wasting time. This is the paradox of the human mind. It deceives us into choosing comfort, only to shame us for it later. The internal battle between comfort and discipline is something every person experiences. We all crave success, discipline, and personal growth, yet when the moment of action arrives, hesitation takes over. The reason is simple: discipline requires effort, while laziness is effortless. But if we look deeper, we see that laziness is not a lack of ability, it's a habit, a conditioned response to discomfort. And like any habit, it can be changed. One of the most effective ways to rewire our behavior is through the 3-week rule. Neuroscience research confirms that it takes around 21 days to form a new habit. This means that if you commit to waking up early for just 3 weeks, your body and mind will adapt, and it will no longer feel like a struggle. But here's the catch: those first 3 weeks will be difficult. Your mind will resist change, making excuses, and seeking comfort. This is where self-awareness and strategy become crucial. So how do we overcome this resistance? The first step is recognizing the lie, understanding that the mind will always tempt you with ease. When it tells you, "Just a little longer in bed won't hurt," you must recognize that this is a trap. The second step is commitment, pushing through the initial struggle for 21 days, no matter how difficult it feels. The discomfort is temporary, but the reward is long-lasting. Let me share another story. I once met a monk who shared a simple yet profound insight on discipline. He told me, "If you cannot control when you wake up, how can you expect to control your destiny?" His words hit me like a bolt of lightning. He explained that discipline isn't about grand gestures, it's about the small battles we win each day. He then gave me a challenge: wake up at 5 a.m. for 21 days, no matter what. The first few days were miserable. My body resisted. My mind made excuses. But every morning, I forced myself up. By the second week, it became easier. By the third week, it felt natural. And after 21 days, I no longer had to force myself. My body and mind had adapted. That challenge changed my life. I realized that the hardest part of anything isn't the action itself, it's the decision to take action. One powerful technique to counteract laziness is the 2-minute rule. Whenever you feel resistance toward starting something, tell yourself, "I will do this for just 2 minutes." The logic behind this is simple: the hardest part of any task is starting. Once you begin, momentum takes over, and before you know it, you're engaged in the activity. This method works because it removes the pressure of committing to a long, daunting task. Instead, you trick your mind into thinking, "It's just 2 minutes," which lowers resistance. For example, if you struggle with studying, tell yourself, "I'll just read 1 paragraph." If you want to start exercising, say, "I'll just do 1 push-up." Once you start, you'll likely continue far beyond 2 minutes. To reinforce discipline, it's essential to create a reward system. The brain responds well to positive reinforcement, meaning small rewards can make discipline feel more satisfying. This doesn't have to be extravagant. A simple acknowledgement of progress, a short break, or a small treat can reinforce good habits. Additionally, having an accountability partner can significantly boost motivation. When you share your goals with someone who encourages and supports you, the pressure to stay committed increases. This is why workout partners, study groups, and mentorships are so effective. They create external accountability, making it harder to give in to laziness. Ultimately, laziness thrives in the absence of action. The only way to defeat it is by moving forward, even when you don't feel like it. A wise saying goes, if you do what is easy today, life will be hard tomorrow. If you do what is hard today, life will be easy tomorrow. Every time you push through resistance, you strengthen your willpower. And the more you do this, the easier it becomes. Over time, discipline stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like a way of life. The moment you rise, shake off hesitation, and begin your work, you reclaim control over your mind. This is the key to true freedom, not being enslaved by momentary comfort, but choosing long-term fulfillment over temporary ease. Growth only happens when we step beyond what is easy. So the next time your mind whispers, just 5 more minutes, ask yourself, is this helping me become the person I want to be? The answer will guide your next action. Chapter 2, The Exam Stress and the Cluttered Mind. Exams have a way of making even the most prepared students feel overwhelmed. The closer they get, the louder the internal voices become, the ones that whisper, "What if I fail?" or "I should have started studying earlier." These thoughts don't just exist in the mind, they manifest physically: racing heart, restless sleep, an inability to focus. Stress is not just a feeling, it's a full-body response to perceived danger. But here's the paradox: an exam is not a life-threatening event, yet the mind treats it like one. This is where the problem begins, not with the exam itself, but with how we perceive it. I once knew a student named Daniel. He was brilliant, but every time exams approached, he fell into the same self-destructive cycle. The night before a big test, he would sit at his desk, surrounded by books, but instead of studying, he stared blankly at the pages. His mind was racing. There's too much to cover. I don't even know where to begin. Maybe I should check one more video on study techniques, or make another schedule, or maybe it's too late already. Hours passed, and instead of studying, Daniel ended up trapped in his own thoughts, scrolling through his phone, distracting himself from the fear of failure. On the day of the exam, his heart pounded as he walked into the room. His mind was a battlefield of self-doubt. I should have started earlier. Why didn't I just focus? What if I blank out? As he flipped through the test paper, his vision blurred. His hands trembled. He knew the answers, but the stress had taken over, clouding his mind. And just like that, the exam was over, and regret took its place. The problem wasn't that Daniel wasn't smart enough. It wasn't even that he hadn't studied enough. The real problem? His mind had already lost the battle before the exam even began. When faced with a challenge, the brain releases cortisol, the hormone responsible for stress. This is part of the body's fight or flight response, designed to help us react quickly to danger. But while this response is useful for avoiding physical threats, it becomes counterproductive when applied to academic challenges. Instead of helping, stress clouds the mind, making it harder to focus, recall information, or think clearly. What started as concern about an exam quickly turns into panic, creating a vicious cycle. Stress leads to poor concentration, which leads to ineffective studying, which leads to more stress. This is why many students, despite having prepared well, struggle to perform under pressure. Their minds aren't failing them, their perception of the situation is. Buddhism offers a powerful remedy to this cycle: mindfulness, sati, the practice of bringing full awareness to the present moment. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when the mind is caught between the past and the future. In the case of exam stress, the past manifests as regret: I should have studied more. The future manifests as fear: what if I fail? Neither of these thoughts exist in the present, yet they dominate our thinking. This is why mindfulness is so effective. It pulls us out of these mental traps and grounds us in what is real, which is right now. One of the biggest mistakes students make is trying to study everything at once. They sit down, open their books, and immediately feel overwhelmed by how much they need to cover. Instead of focusing on one task, they allow their mind to jump from one subject to another, leading to mental paralysis. To avoid this, train yourself to focus on the task at hand. When studying a chapter, don't think about the next 5 chapters waiting for you. When reading a page, don't worry about the entire book. Train your mind to be here, not everywhere else. A practical method to cultivate this focus is the Pomodoro technique. Study for 25 minutes with complete concentration. Take a 5-minute break. Repeat this cycle 4 times, then take a longer break. This technique works because the brain functions best in short bursts of focus, rather than long, drawn-out study sessions. By studying in intervals, you not only improve retention but also prevent burnout. More importantly, it teaches your mind discipline during those 25 minutes. Your only task is to study. The ability to direct full attention to the present moment is a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed. Consider the way samurai warriors approached battle. In ancient Japan, samurai practiced deep meditation before combat. Their training was not just physical but mental. They conditioned themselves to focus solely on the next move, never on the outcome of the fight. This singular concentration made them formidable warriors, able to react instantly without hesitation or fear. Imagine applying this same principle to studying. Instead of worrying about whether you will pass or fail, train your mind to focus only on the next page, the next concept, the next question. Each moment of focused attention adds up, just like each precise movement in a duel determines the outcome of battle. But what about students who feel like they have already lost? Many enter exam season carrying the weight of regret for not starting sooner, regret for wasted time. This regret itself becomes an obstacle. The truth is, no amount of worrying will change the past. But action in the present can still shape the future. Even if you have limited time left, studying with full focus right now is infinitely more valuable than wasting energy on what you should have done. I once had a friend named Michael. He had barely studied for his final math exam, and the night before the test, he was ready to give up. "It's too late," he told me. "I might as well not even try." But instead of giving up, he did something radically different. He set a timer for 20 minutes and focused only on one topic, not the whole syllabus, just one concept. When the timer went off, he realized, "I actually understand this." Encouraged, he did another 20 minutes, then another. By the time the exam came, he hadn't mastered the entire subject, but he had built enough momentum to approach the test with clarity instead of panic. He ended up passing with a decent score, not because he covered everything, but because he didn't let stress control him. The biggest mistake students make is giving up mentally before they even begin. They tell themselves, "It's too late." But the mind is powerful, and what it believes becomes reality. If you convince yourself that you are already defeated, you won't even try. But if you approach the challenge with a warrior's mindset, fully engaged in the present, tackling one thing at a time, you will do better than you ever thought possible. The path to overcoming exam stress is not about eliminating pressure altogether, it's about changing your relationship with it. Pressure can either crush you or sharpen you. The difference is in your mindset. Stress can either paralyze you or fuel you. The choice is yours. With the right approach, stress can become fuel, not a burden. Mindfulness, focus, and discipline are not just tools for exams, they are tools for life. When you train your mind to be present and engaged, you gain control not just over your studies, but over everything you do. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, take a deep breath. Let go of past mistakes. Stop fearing the future. Focus only on what is in front of you. Like the samurai, like the monk in meditation, like the river that flows effortlessly toward its destination, move forward, one step at a time. Chapter 3: Rediscovering the Value of Life. Life can feel like an endless cycle of repetition, where each day blends into the next with little meaning or direction. This feeling of emptiness is not uncommon, especially among students who are constantly pressured to perform, achieve, and meet expectations. The question that lingers in many minds is, what is the point of it all? The struggle to find purpose is one of the deepest battles a person can face, and often, the more one searches for meaning, the harder it becomes to grasp. It is not that life lacks meaning, it is that we have been conditioned to look for it in the wrong places. There was once a young explorer who set out on a journey to find a legendary treasure hidden deep within the mountains. He had read ancient texts that spoke of a golden artifact that would grant the one who found it eternal wisdom and fulfillment. With a heart full of determination, he traveled through forests, crossed dangerous rivers, and climbed steep cliffs. But after years of searching, he found nothing. Every map led him to another dead end. Frustrated and exhausted, he collapsed on the side of a trail, questioning everything. I have spent my entire life searching for something that may not even exist. Was all of this for nothing? An old monk, passing by, saw the young explorer's despair and sat beside him. "What are you looking for?" the monk asked. "A treasure," the explorer replied. "Something that will give my life meaning." The monk smiled and pointed to the ground. "Look beneath you." The explorer dug into the earth with his hands, expecting nothing. But to his shock, he found gold. Not a legendary artifact, but real gold, right there in the dirt where he had sat down in despair. "You traveled so far, thinking what you sought was somewhere else," the monk said. "But meaning was always here, where you are. You just never looked." Like the young explorer, many people feel lost because they believe purpose exists somewhere out there. They chase after achievements, thinking success will bring them fulfillment. They compare themselves to others, thinking their worth depends on how they measure up. But the truth is, meaning is not something external, it is something we cultivate from within. One of the reasons people feel lost is the lack of a clear purpose. When we don't know where we are going, every step feels uncertain, and uncertainty breeds frustration. Many students feel this deeply. They study because they are told to, not because they have a personal vision for their future. Without a sense of direction, life can feel mechanical, like we are simply following orders rather than living with intention. Purpose is not something given, it is something created. The Buddha taught that human suffering often stems from attachment and craving, and one of the biggest cravings in modern life is the desire for validation. Many people unknowingly attach their sense of worth to external achievements, grades, career success, social recognition, believing that these will bring lasting fulfillment. But when these things are not enough, a void remains. Another major cause of this emptiness is isolation. The human mind is not designed to function in solitude. Even the most introverted individuals need connection to feel emotionally whole. Yet, In a world dominated by digital interactions, many people feel lonelier than ever. Superficial connections on social media cannot replace the depth of real relationships. When people disconnect from others, they also disconnect from themselves. Without the warmth of companionship and support, even small struggles feel overwhelming. Adding to this struggle is the problem of comparison. Social media creates a distorted reality where people only see the highlights of others' lives while comparing them to their own unfiltered experiences. This leads to the belief that everyone else has it figured out, which deepens feelings of inadequacy. The Buddha warned against conceit, the tendency to compare ourselves to others, whether thinking we are superior, inferior, or equal. This illusion keeps us trapped in suffering because it shifts our focus outward rather than inward. True fulfillment does not come from measuring ourselves against others, but from aligning with our own unique path. Another overlooked reason people feel unfulfilled is a lack of gratitude. When we are always focused on what we don't have, we become blind to what we do have. Gratitude is a fundamental teaching in Buddhism because it shifts the mind from craving to contentment. The reason so many people feel their lives lack meaning is because they are constantly chasing something more. But the paradox is that the more we chase, the emptier we feel. It is only when we stop and appreciate the present moment that we realize meaning was always there. It was just overshadowed by endless wanting. So how do we overcome this sense of meaninglessness? The answer lies in contribution. The Buddha taught that true fulfillment does not come from personal gain, but from giving to others. When we shift our focus from what can I get, to what can I give, something profound happens. Our actions begin to carry purpose, and the void that once consumed us starts to fill with meaning. This is beautifully illustrated in an old Zen story. A student once asked his master, "What is the purpose of life?" The master responded by handing him a candle and saying, "Light it, and you will see." The student lit the candle, but nothing seemed different. Then the master took another candle and said, "Now, use your light to light another." As the student did so, the room grew brighter. "This is your purpose," the master said. "Light up others' lives, and you will find your own path." When we help others, we illuminate not only their path but our own. Even the smallest acts of kindness can create a ripple effect far beyond what we can see. Helping someone in need, offering a kind word, or simply being present for a friend can shift our entire perspective on life. Many people mistakenly believe that meaning comes from achieving great things, but in reality, it comes from simple, daily actions done with compassion and intention. Another way to rediscover purpose is by developing skills and growing as a person. Learning is not just about academic knowledge, it is about expanding our capabilities and understanding of the world. Growth brings direction. When you dedicate yourself to improving a skill, mastering a subject, or creating something meaningful, life naturally gains depth. Purpose is not always something profound. Sometimes, it is as simple as becoming better than you were yesterday. Setting small goals is another crucial step. Often, people feel overwhelmed because they try to define their life's purpose in broad, unattainable terms. But purpose is not something you find once and keep forever. It evolves with you. The key is to start small. Accomplishing little goals builds confidence, and each step forward reveals a new path. When life feels directionless, instead of searching for a grand meaning, focus on the next small step. At the core of this journey is gratitude. It is impossible to feel lost when you deeply appreciate what you have. Instead of waking up thinking about what is missing, start the day by acknowledging what is present. This simple shift in mindset can transform how you experience life. Gratitude is not just about feeling thankful, it is about recognizing that meaning already exists. We just need to open our eyes to it. Finally, it is important to understand that setbacks are part of the journey. There will be times when life feels stagnant, when progress seems invisible, and when the future feels uncertain. But as a wise saying goes, a river never stops flowing, even when it meets obstacles. Just like a river finds its way around rocks and barriers, we too must keep moving. Even if the path is unclear, even if doubt lingers, the only thing that truly matters is that we do not stop. The search for meaning is not about finding a perfect answer, it is about how we choose to live each day. Like the young explorer, we may spend our lives searching for something external, only to realize that meaning was always within us. The key is not to search for purpose, but to live with purpose. And in doing so, the question of meaning ceases to be a burden, it becomes a way of life. We have explored the mind's greatest struggles, laziness, stress, and the loss of purpose. And through the wisdom of the Buddha, we have uncovered a truth: these are not unsolvable problems, but illusions created by the mind itself. Overcoming laziness starts with recognizing the tricks of the mind. The moment you realize that comfort is an illusion, that every time you give in to procrastination you are stealing from your future self, you begin to reclaim your discipline. Managing stress requires mindfulness, the ability to stay present and let go of the fears of tomorrow. The exams, the deadlines, the expectations, they are only as heavy as we allow them to be. When you anchor yourself in the present, you will find that clarity and focus come naturally. And perhaps most importantly, rediscovering the value of life begins when you stop searching for meaning outside yourself. Meaning is not something you find, it is something you create. It is found in small acts of kindness, in the pursuit of knowledge, and in the moments of gratitude that remind us that we are already enough. To the daughter who asked this question, and to everyone watching, know this: you are not alone. Your struggles are real, but they are temporary. What is not temporary is your potential, your growth, and your ability to rise above them. The path to a fulfilling life is not found in waiting for motivation, but in taking action. Not in fearing failure, but in learning from it. Not in seeking purpose, but in living with purpose. May you find peace, may you find clarity, and may you always remember, the mind is powerful, but you are more powerful.